I want to use an analogy that I find very illuminating anyway. The analogy of the formation of NATO after the Second World War and the formation of the Delian League, which is ultimately turned into the Athenian Empire after the Persian Wars. In the case of the Delian League, I think a Norwegian or a Swedish scholar has described the process whereby NATO was invented as the establishment of hegemony by invitation. That is, if you look at the situation 1945, 6, 7, 8, 9, the European states that ultimately became part of NATO desperately wanted the Americans to join with them, not to repeat what they had done after the First World War, which was to retreat back into North America, to have no connections of a political, military kind with Europe, which terrified the European states that were sort of knocked down so hard by the Second World War and who were afraid that the Soviet Union was going to take them over. And they desperately wanted the Americans to take the lead. Now, the Americans were glad to do it. I don't mean all the Americans. As always, there were factions and differences of opinions, and the American president and his government had to fight hard to convince Americans to do it. But by and large, they did, and those who won the argument were of the opinion that American interests, first of all, in restoring Europe to its previous condition, and secondly, to resisting communist takeover, Soviet takeover of Europe, meant that it was in America's interest to see that such a situation develop. Both sides, I would argue, were equally glad to see what happened because it was in the interest of both sides.